Good afternoon, Namibia and the world, and welcome to the Government Information Center. My name is Desire Kahiha, and this afternoon I am hosting this very pertinent press conference, and we're going to jump right into it. We are done with the celebration of independence, and now we hit the ground running in making sure that you are well informed. In the studio this afternoon, I do have my very own Honorable Minister, Emma Theophilis. She is the Minister of Information and Communication Technology. Thank you very much for being here. She's also joined by Professor Tulimevava Mufeti. She is the chair of the board for the Communications Regulatory Authority of Namibia, for short, CRAN. Thank you very much, and also thank you very much for everybody who has joined us in the studio, including our various media houses. We're trying to make sure that everybody gets this piece of very important news. And without further ado, I would like to just run through the small house rules. All cell phones, please, on silence, complete silence. And for our media houses, if there's anybody who does have a question after our esteemed guests have completed their presentations, please be reminded that you walk over to the podium where I'm at right now, you pose your question, and then we hand it over for them to answer us. I trust that is well with everybody. Thank you. And at this point, I would like to hand it over to my Honourable Minister, please.
Thank you so much, Desire. A very good afternoon to all our viewers and listeners at home. We're very happy, alongside the chairperson of the Communications Regulatory Authority of Namibia, Professor Mufeti, to do this press conference and appraise the nation on the decision taken by the government of the Republic of Namibia through the Communications Regulatory Authority of Namibia to decline the application license of Starlink. So, members of the media, the MICT executive management and team, the CRAN executive management and team, distinguished invited guests, esteemed stakeholders, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. As you may be aware, the decision of the government of the Republic of Namibia to the Communications Regulatory Authority of Namibia regarding the application by Starlink Internet Services Namibia, Pty Ltd, has been formally published in the Government Gazette as of yesterday, the 23rd of March 2026. This engagement serves to provide context to that decision and to reaffirm the authority's commitment to transparency, regulatory certainty, and of course, the rule of law. CRAN's mandate is to regulate the communication sector in a manner that promotes universal access, fosters fair competition, and supports Namibia's digital transformation. In doing so, the government, through the authority, seeks to balance the encouragement of innovation and investment with the need to ensure full compliance with the legal and regulatory framework governing the sector. Namibia's telecommunications sector continues to evolve with ongoing investment infrastructure, increasing service availability, and a growing range of offerings aimed at improving connectivity across the country. The authority remains focused on ensuring that this progress is sustained, inclusive, and aligned with national development objectives. It is therefore that the application submitted by Starlink Internet Services Namibia, Pty Ltd, or Starlink in short, on the 1st of June 2024, sought a Class Comprehensive Telecommunications Service License, ECS and ECNS, as well as a Spectrum License for fixed satellite services. CRAN then informed the applicant to approach the minister responsible for ICT as per Section 46 of the Communications Act, Act number 8 of 2009, to then seek the exemption in terms of ownership under that section. It is on the 1st of July 2024 that the applicant then approached the Minister of ICT in terms of applying for the exemption under that particular Section 46 of the Act. Subsequent to that, consultative sessions were held with different stakeholders around the specific application on an exemption, and a decision was then communicated to the Communications Regulatory Authority of Namibia and the applicant in relation an exemption of ownership in accordance with Section 46 of the Act. The authority undertook a comprehensive and structured assessment of that application thereafter, in accordance with the Communications Act and the applicable licensing and spectrum regulations. This process was guided by the principles of administrative law, including legality, rationality, proportionality, and procedural fairness, and included consideration of public submissions. The application was evaluated against 6 prescribed statutory criteria, namely competition, technical and financial capacity, frequency availability, ownership and control, national defense and public security, and lastly, compliance history. I will now hand over this segment to the chairperson of the Communications Regulatory Authority of Namibia, Prof. Mufeti, to explain these criteria in detail and the final decision that was then finally gazetted in the Government Gazette as of yesterday. Over to you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. As indicated by the Honorable Minister, the authority followed a comprehensive process in assessing the application, and we looked at the criteria that involved the following categories. So for the first criterion, it's competition. The authority evaluated the business case that Starlink presented and noted that this case is expected to enhance competition in Namibia's telecommunications sector. It will address coverage gaps, especially in areas where terrestrial infrastructure is costly and challenging. Nevertheless, the authority was concerned about the applicant's lack of physical presence and direct economic investment in Namibia, which the authority consider important. Regardless of that, the authority thought that this could be mitigated by imposing license conditions, which is something that the authority already does. So overall, looking at the shortcomings as well as the mitigation, the authority concluded that the applicant met the competition criteria subject to licensing conditions related to the establishment of a physical presence, direct economic investments, as well as digital infrastructure in the country. So therefore, we considered that this application met the competition criteria, which is the first criterion. The second criterion is on technical and financial capacity. The authority noted that Starlink has demonstrated both financial capacity and the technical expertise that is necessary to successfully execute its business case. And therefore, we were satisfied as an authority that Starlink has met the required criteria on financial and technical capability. The third criterion is on frequency availability. We did not foresee any technical constraints that are arising from limited availability of frequencies. There is frequency that is available, sufficient within the designated frequency band that was requested for use by Starlink. Accordingly, the authority then concluded that Starlink has satisfied this criterion that is related to the availability of radio frequencies. Then we look at ownership and control. As the Honorable Minister has already indicated, Starlink was requested also, like all the other applicants, to ensure that they meet the prescribed requirements of ownership under Section 46 of the Communications Act. However, unfortunately, Starlink does not comply with these ownership requirements. The entity is wholly foreign-owned. So Starlink did not obtain the exemption from the statutory obligation that mandates it to have a minimum ownership of 51% Namibian. and therefore this criteria was not met. Looking at the next criteria, which is national defense and public security, the authority views data sovereignty and national control as central to the regulation of telecommunications services in Namibia. And this is envisaged in the Communications Act and the national policy that is governing the communications sector. The Communications Act mandates that all licensees should operate in a manner that promote public interest, that safeguards national security, and ensures compliance with applicable legal and regulatory obligations that include provisions that are related to lawful interception, consumer protection, as well as effective regulatory oversight. In this regard, the requirement for Namibian ownership and control, that is the other criteria, is aimed at ensuring that telecommunication service providers remain subject to domestic jurisdiction and that they are fully accountable to national authorities. Starlink's proposed business model that is based on satellite-delivered services with 100% foreign ownership, it raises material regulatory considerations concerning the jurisdiction, enforceability of compliance obligations, and the ability of the authority to exercise effective oversight as required under the Communications Act. And therefore, in light of the above, and in accordance with the principles and provisions of the Communications Act, the authority found that the application does not at this stage adequately satisfy the requirements that are related to national defense and public safety. The last criteria is that on compliance history, and Starlink contravened the Communications Act, Section 39(3)(d), by operating a network and offering a telecommunications service without a valid service license. Starlink's contravention of the Communications Act and subsequently its failure to respond to the authority's summons shows a total disregard for the governance framework of the sector, and it also raises doubt on Starlink's ability to honor license conditions in future. Accordingly, the authority thus concluded that the Starlink did not meet the criteria for compliance history due mainly to penalties that are imposed for illegal transmission and failure to respond. Therefore, Honorable Minister, upon our evaluation, CRANE found that the applicant met only 3 out of the 6 criteria that are required by law, and since each criteria is a ground for refusal, the authority then resolved to decline the application for the Class Comprehensive Telecommunications Service License, ECS and ECNS, by the applicant. Thank you, Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much. That concludes our statement. Desire all the viewers and listeners at home, in that consequently, in accordance with Section 101, subsection 6 of the Communications Act, the application for a spectrum license was then declined because such a license cannot be held independently of a Class Comprehensive Telecommunications Service License. I would like to reiterate here at the end that the Government of the Republic of Namibia and that of the Ministry of ICT and the Authority CRAN continues to remain committed to ensuring that innovation lives very, very comfortably with regulation in the best interest of Namibia and its people, and ensuring that we continue to advance the sector in the best way that we can. And with that, we thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, Honorable, and thank you very much, Prof. Mofeti. I believe that was quite detailed, but we would not be a free and fair country if we do not allow our media houses, if any, to pose any questions that they need clarity on any part of this particular information that we just received. And remember, once you come onto the podium, please do let us know what your name is and which media house that you are representing this afternoon. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Irene Marie van der Walt. I'm a journalist for Network Media Hub, representing Namibian Sun Republikein and Algemene Zeitung. I just have one question pertaining to the 51% ownership, and you must please pardon me if I'm a bit ignorant on this, but I'd like to know what that process is like. Are 51% shares sold? Is the international company expected to establish a local entity of which 51% ownership must be acquired by Namibians? Are the shares donated? How do Namibians get involved there? Thank you very much.
Honourable, would you like to answer that one, or should we take the next one? Okay. Another question?
Good afternoon. I am Kudumo Rectangle Tobias from IUM Radio. Just a question, Honourable Minister and Honourable Chairperson. Was this decision taken with the consumer in mind? I mean, thinking of the fact that data is quite expensive in Namibia, and there seems to be a monopoly, kind of. So the question is, was this decision taken with the consumer in mind, bearing what I just mentioned right now? And also another question. We've seen in terms of geopolitics where countries who tend to go against the United States, and in particular the owners of Starlink, faced the wrath of the US government in terms of tariffs and whatnot. Does it not worry our administration? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay. Honourable, I think you are ready for the first question. Then we just answer the first three questions. If there are still any on the platform, then we take them on.
Okay, there be another one now?
Is there maybe another question? We can do a second round. Let's just answer this first.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much for the questions. The first question from NMH. Yes, indeed. So Starlink, the operating company, needed to actually register a Namibian sort of entity. So that is why we announced that the company registered is Starlink Internet Services Namibia, Pty Ltd, who then made the application to the regulator. And yes, in terms of 51% ownership, this should be Namibians who hold the shares. How that arrangement comes about, it's up to the particular company, whether they're donating the shares, selling the shares, it's up to the company on how they want to satisfy that requirement of 51% local or Namibian ownership. So it's up to them to do so. The idea is just that we want a company registered in Namibia under Namibian jurisdiction with majority Namibian ownership as per the Communications Act provisions. In terms of question 2, or would the chairperson like to add on question 1?
No.
Okay.
No,
on question 2, IUM Radio, indeed this decision was taken into account with the consumer in mind. A big part of that is the criteria on competition. As we all know, competition drives the price down. It ensures that consumers benefit at the end. We also look at holistically the application in terms of public security and public safety. And that is also a big requirement to ensuring that the consumer is well looked after in consideration of an application. We fully understand that for many segments of the society as it stands now, considering the makeup of our country, such a large country, and connectivity costs are quite high because it's a largely geographically sized country with a small population, the cost of data is not where we want it to be in terms of affordability, especially for our vulnerable communities. However, we took into account that the projected amounts that Starlink provided to us in terms of, one, the once-off cost of the terminal. There's a clear indication that if you convert the money they proposed in the application to Namibian dollars, on average you're expecting a terminal for it to be shipped to Namibia to cost around 5,000 to 6,000 Namibian dollars as a once-off cost. And then the monthly cost, when you convert the US dollars to Namibian dollars that they provided in the application, could easily average between 900 to 1,000 Namibian dollars that you need to pay for the terminal to get their unlimited internet. Of course, this is doable for many sections of our community, but it does not actually respond to the communities who might not otherwise afford the current cost of data. So we do not see that if an average Namibian or a vulnerable Namibian in rural Namibia was to invest in a Starlink terminal, the once-off 6,000 cost and the monthly cost of 1,000 on average Namibian dollars does not justify the affordability of that device for the very vulnerable communities that we want access to. We are cognizant of the fact that one terminal can service multiple users from institutions to individuals, but we did not see a direct correlation that once we actually approve Starlink and that their terminals are available in the country at that marginal cost of immediate investment for the terminal to be shipped to the country and the monthly cost, that we would achieve 100% connectivity, for example. That is still something we'll continue to monitor, as Starlink has committed to revise their model to also try to reach the most vulnerable communities who might not otherwise be able to afford those costs, especially in a developing country like ours. The second part of the question on geopolitics, indeed, we are very much aware of the geopolitical situation that we find ourselves in, not only related to the current administration in the United States of America, but very cognizant of the fact that Namibia is a sovereign country. We pride ourselves in being a sovereign state, and we know that countries depend on one another, whether for trade, for cooperation. Multilateralism is a very, very important principle that Namibia still adheres to. But we are also cognizant of the fact that we are a sovereign nation that should have the ability to make sovereign decisions for the benefit of its people. And we took that decision knowing full well that our relations with the United States of America are still very much cordial. And we still have a relationship where we have a lot of discussions around developmental issues. And we suspect that this could be just an additional point in strengthening our continued cooperation and a cordial relationship we still share with the United States of America.
Thank you very much, Honorable. I hope that gorge gave clarity to those who asked the particular questions. We do still have time for 2 more questions, if we have any on the floor. You still have a question? Going once.
Dr. Mofetu would like to.
Oh,
Prof
yes,
would like
please,
to say
Doctor.
something, add something.
Professor.
Thank you. I just wanted to highlight also, or to give more information on the second question. From the authorities' point of view, we covered consumer concerns under the competition criteria. And as you have already seen, this criteria was actually met by the Starlink application. So as far as the benefits that will come from having Starlink here are concerned, I think the authority has acknowledged that, and therefore for this specific criteria, it was considered as met. The only challenge then in our case, in this case, is that all 6 criteria need to be met for us to consider it as a successful application.
Thank you very much. I think at this point, we would like to thank you both for coming in and creating that clarity for us. But before I round it off, I'd like to hand it back to my Honourable Minister.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Desire. At the end here, we would just like to indicate that we are committed to exploring new technologies. The authority recently actually approved satellite communications applicants. This is not a first for our country. Other applicants have been approved. But further than that, we continue engaging with all applicants, whether those who are successful or those who are not successful. And all applicants are always welcome to revise their application, to look at the facts that led to an application being declined, and try again with the authority, which we are happy to reassess again, considering that we fully welcome all internet service providers in the country to meet our national developmental goals. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Honorable. And I think, honestly speaking, it speaks to what it is as a country that we're trying to achieve. We're trying to move our country into the future, but in a realistic manner that not only speaks and benefits every single little person with not leaving anybody behind, but ensuring that we secure ourselves as a nation to ensure that we do not step on ourselves in the future. So thank you for that, and we've come to the end of this press conference for today. Please ensure that you stay tuned on all our platforms to make sure that you stay appraised with any developments that arise, whether it is out there on the ground or from our chambers in the various boardrooms that have been constituted to make sure that the necessary decisions and the safe decisions are made for our country. From myself, Desire Kahiha, thank you very much to the media houses that are represented, the various officials that made the time to be here with us, along with our Professor Mufeti and my Honorable Minister. Thank you very much. It is bye-bye for now.